Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. My name is Lisa Chamat, the Business Development Manager here at Chartered Digital, and I will be your host for today's session, which is our second in our three-part series about Microsoft 365 subscriptions. For those of you joining us for the first time, a very warm welcome to you. Don't worry, as you can access the first part of our series on demand on our website and get everything you need to understand about choosing the right Microsoft 365 subscription. It's really good to have those of you who have joined us a couple of weeks ago. And if you attend our first webinar, we hope it was really helpful for you and helped you demystify and clarify what your organization needs and what it can benefit from in terms of Microsoft 365 subscriptions. Today, Joel Hogan, our amazing cloud account manager and Microsoft specialist at Chartered Digital, will be back with a focus on understanding Microsoft 365 validations. So that will be all about how to get validated, what you need to know. It will go through everything. Obviously, let us know where you are joining us from, if you're in the office or from home, and what you're expecting to learn today. We would love to hear from you. We're going to spend approximately an hour together and help to answer all of your questions that you may have. That leads me to our house rules. Obviously, the session will be recorded, and the recording, the slide, and all the other resources will be made available to you in approximately 1 week. So you can keep going back to the recording whenever you want and on demand. And hopefully it will be very helpful for you and to share internally as well. Closed captions are available at the bottom right of your screen, so next to the record button if you need them. We're going to leave plenty of time for questions, so please do feel free to pop your questions in the Q&A button. Those are two little speech bubbles overlapping one another. Please submit them at any time. There's also a very cool function which helps to vote the most interesting questions for you. So please do ask questions at any time, and we will section a good part of the webinar to answer all of them. Obviously, we love to hear from you. So for anything else, your experiences, were you joining us today, and all the tips that you have, please pop that in the chat section. We love it because it keeps the whole thing interactive and brings loads of value to everyone attending. So yeah, we look forward to hearing from you and to see where you're joining us from today. Obviously, once you leave the session, you'll be prompted for feedback. So please do just spare a couple of minutes really to leave your comments and feedback on the session. That will help us to improve, understand what we did great, what we need to improve on, and keep on delivering good sessions for all of you guys. As I said, please ask all of your questions. Joel will be the right person to answer them. And without further ado, as we now have hopefully everybody joining us, let me hand over to you, Joel. Hello and welcome.
Hi, Lisa. Good afternoon. Thank you for the warm welcome. Okay, so just want to say hello to everyone. Welcome back to some of you who come from the second time, and hello for the first time. So today we're just going to try and really provide a simple process through the validation purpose for getting access to Microsoft's non-profit cloud offers. So this involves creating a 365 account, which you're then submitting to Microsoft to be validated to access the non-profit pricing. And yet, like I said, we're just today going to try and simplify that, just go through some of the forms there for you. And hopefully it simplifies the process for you. And yeah, any questions are at the end. So let's get started. Okay, so the website that you need to go to, so it wasn't mentioned on here, sorry, it was my fault. But if you go to the website nonprofit.microsoft.com, that will take you to this page, which has been cut to fit the slide. So yeah, it will be a bit of a bigger page than this, but you'll see this general look here. And as you can see, we have two circled sections here. So if your organization has never used 365 before, or who doesn't have a 365 admin portal, then you're going to want to click on the Register Now button on the left. That'll get you started with the form for the first time. For those of you who may have maybe your charity recently gained charitable status, but was previously working with maybe like a commercial account or something like that. So you already have an existing 365 account with all your emails and users, and you want to keep that. You click on the sign in button instead and sign in with your existing 365 domain and then continue with the form. Also on this website, you can't see here due to the trim, there's more information about eligibility and other sort of terms and conditions as well. If you do have questions about eligibility, if you review back to our previous video, we have a section dedicated to eligible organisations and eligible users there. Okay, so moving on. So this is the beginning of the form. Well, don't need to spend too long on each of these forms really, it's just filling out the various bars. So this is a point of contact first. Just a couple of points I would say for a contact email. As basic as it sounds, just please ensure you're using an email address which you do have access to. Some organizations might want to use perhaps a generic inbox where perhaps the settings aren't quite friendly enough, or the spam filters are too high. So when you're receiving any sort of activation emails or authentication emails, you might not receive them from Microsoft. So make sure it is an email address that you do have access to. And also one of my favorite sayings, please ensure you are checking your junk folder just in case, as the follow-up emails can end up there on a lot of occasions. Further down there, it's got a bit of some information about Microsoft policies, privacy statements, a couple of sort of optional tick boxes there. And just below that, you can't see it there due to the cut. There'll be a button to proceed further with the form. So once you've done that, you'll receive this notification. So an email will be sent to the email address that you just submitted. Obviously ours is listed here but blocked off. And that email that you'll receive will have a code. So you enter that code there and verify that. Yeah, so just the authentication, two-factor authentication is a thing the modern era now. So just this is one part of it as well, just to ensure that it is the right kind of person submitting the information. So once you've entered a code and clicked verify, you go to the next part of the form here. So tell us about your organization. Yeah. So legal name. If you're coming from perhaps a charity on the Charity Commission or the Oscar Register or the Northern Ireland Charity Commission, enter the name that's on there. If it's a long name, perhaps you come from a religious organization with a really interestingly long church name, and you do have some other names that are listed on your Charity Commission account, like, I know, St. John's PCC. I know it's a very, very generic name, St. John's there, but something like that, you can enter that instead. That shouldn't be a problem. Enter your address details. As you can see, it's a star there, which means it's mandatory. Your organization's website. So it's important that in terms of validation processes, the process that you do have a website. What will happen is when your details enter the queue to be validated, what will be looked at is your organization's activities. As we spoke about in the last video, it's not just your charitable status that makes your organization eligible, it's also your activities as well. If you don't have a website, there are ways around it. You can still complete the form. What would happen is that eventually you'll be contacted by a validator at Techsoup requesting some further information just to confirm your activities. So this might be in the form of perhaps an annual report. Some sort of annual reports do have, as well as the income and budget details, also has perhaps what your achievements are this year. So, or maybe if you don't have anything like that, perhaps something along with a poster or something like that, or anything really to really confirm what helped the validator realize what your organization does. So you've got your organization's phone number there, which would be important for the two-factor authentication process going forward as well. Some of the information here, like such as organization size, organization budget, if it's something you're not very aware of, you can use your Charity Commission, Oscar or Northern Ireland Charity Commission registers to help you get that information, as that should be on there in terms of the income. If you're not sure, then do your best to go through, and again, a validator may ask for that information if it's not enough to confirm your eligibility. again, with mission statements, again, they can be found on the Charity Commission and the other registers as well. Okay, important part here. So registration type. So the default there is Charity Commission for England and Wales. But also on that drop down as well, you'll see Oscar Register. You'll see Northern Ireland Charity Commission, and you'll also see HMRC registered as well. And I believe there's other as well. But if you're choosing other, then you're most likely not meeting the eligibility standards at this time. Obviously, enter your Charity Commission correctly. Please don't enter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This does happen quite often and can delay your validation timing, which obviously you don't want. The documentation, this could be a good opportunity for either those who don't have a website, but they want to show evidence of basically help prove what you actually do. It's a good opportunity to upload a document there. Or if you're an HMRC registered organisation, it's at that point that you'll either want to upload the letter from the HMRC confirming your charitable tax exempt status, and this could be in the form of perhaps a gift aid letter or gift aid receipt. You can block out any information on there that you don't want to see, but as long as it's confirming your unique reference number, which there's a whole variety of unique reference numbers associated with the HMRC, but they always start with a letter or two as well. For gift aid, if you process it online, what you can do as well as an accepted document is you can take like a screenshot of your gift aid online portal and then block out any information there, and that, as long as that portal shows a unique reference number, that should be uploaded as well. If you're not sure, again at that time, and you can still proceed with the form and go further, but you may be contacted by a validator to request some further information to confirm your charitable status. So yeah, once you've done that, you press sort of continue with the form. And then here's another form of the authentication. So here you go enter your telephone number. Again, make sure that it is one that you can access, because there's going to be a code that comes through to you either via text or call, whichever you prefer. I personally prefer text just because it's quicker that way. Calls you can be quick as well, but I just like the numbers there. You can just quickly get it and then proceed further. Not much else to explain there. Now you're creating your user accounts. This is interesting and both important. So as you can see in the top two lines there, you've got username and your company. So I'm just going to start with the second point there, your company. So that's actually going to be your first domain for your 365 account, or potentially your first domain to use for email addresses, which you can carry on using in the future, or you can add your own domain later. But so if your name of the organization is, I don't know, Mary's Kittens or something like that, and then you can type in Mary's Kittens, and then your domain name will be maryskittens.onmicrosoft.com. And say at Mary's Kittens, you're not Mary herself, you could be John, then your username, you could put it as John, and then your first email, your first username would be john@maryskittens.onmicrosoft.com. The username you can expand on a little bit. It could be like John and a surname. It could be initials. You can even come up with a generic name to start off with. So if you want to use an info at or admin at or something like that, you certainly can do. So just ensure that when you are entering this information, just make a note of it whilst you are doing that, as you'll be eventually logging back into this account. And obviously there, the other parts there, just create a password and confirm it, make sure they both match, and proceed with creating your account. So after that bit, your account is created and you'll receive an email. So this page that you see in front of you won't appear on your screen. You'll actually receive this notification via email. So if you receive this notification, you know that you've successfully submitted your application. Now, what this means, this does not mean that your validation is complete. It simply means that you've created an account and that it's in the queue to be validated. Many organizations get confused at this point and think they can get going ahead. There is a very, very, very basic trial which comes with this. And as you can see, a crazy amount of days and licenses come with it for free. Unfortunately, these non-profit portal licenses, they don't really have too much to use. They don't include any Office apps or anything like that. You can't go even on Word or anything like that with it. It's just really a trial. Still try it, sometimes work out what it truly does, but it's just to help you have a look at your portal, maybe navigate it, just have a look whilst you're waiting to be validated. Okay, so just to reconfirm, this is not confirmation of your validation. It's just simply confirmation that you've created your account and it is in the queue. Okay, so the average processing time when you go directly to the Microsoft non-profit portal to submit your organization's details is 10 days. So usually we receiving response. So the validation will usually be completed within 10 days. Sometimes it can take longer, particularly if you have received a request to provide further information, just to confirm maybe your activities, or it might be a security check or something like that. So that could also extend it. One way to almost dramatically reduce this waiting time is if you're actually registered with Charity Digital Exchange. So if your organization is registered for Charity Digital Exchange and qualified, so that's important. So you can submit an application for Charity Digital Exchange, but you need to wait until you receive confirmation that registration is complete. Once you've received that, this will actually reduce the waiting time to actually around 5 days, and sometimes on some occasions even quicker than that. Depends how Microsoft's feeling, how quickly they are with those days. Sometimes it's instantly. I've heard people get validated the same day or a day or two, but the average is about 5 for those who hold a current account with Charity Digital Exchange then. Okay, and you'll receive a second email eventually. Remember, keep an eye on that junk folder just in case. You'll receive an email that will look like this. So have your status saying you're approved, which is great. That means you're eligible, and just some further information about it's quite a long email with various offers from Microsoft. Like you see there, Microsoft 365 is mentioned. If you wanted to get directly for them, there's some further offers down there about some other sort of opportunities as well now that you've been validated. So yeah, receiving this is a good thing. That means you are validated, your 365 account is there, and you can start purchasing non-profit licenses, which you can actually obtain via us at a further discount sometimes as well. Okie dokie. I hope everyone understood that. I hope it wasn't too quick as well. And I sort of welcome any questions at this stage.
Yes, and thank you very much, Joel, for a very quick and insightful presentation. So yeah, I will start diving in questions straight away. Don't forget we have plenty of time to answer everything, so please feel free to pop them in. The first question from Lawrence Pilgrim, who is saying that they have already registered and have 365 licenses and a domain. Do they need to re-register?
No. So on the first page there, if you already have a 365 account with a domain, you just, on the first page on the nonprofit.microsoft.com website, instead of going to register now, you sign in and then complete the form. So that way you don't have to create a whole new account, migrate data over or anything like that. You can completely avoid that. One thing I would say, which I didn't mention, you cannot convert a family or personal 365 account into a charity one. Only if you're using a commercial sort of a standard price license can it be converted into a non-profit one. So if anyone is using personal or family, which you shouldn't be because you shouldn't be, but if you are, you're going to have to move away from that completely and create a new account then.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Joel. Another question from Tim. If you are registered with Charity Digital, are you automatically eligible for Microsoft nonprofit? I think I know the answer.
Good question. The answer would be no, because again, with Charity Digital, organizations' eligibility changes per each of our partners. And the same applies to Microsoft. As I said, it's not based on your charitable status, it's based on your activities as well. However, to give yourself a clue, if you do look into your Charity Digital Exchange account, you should, providing your account's up to date, you can view under the active org profile all of our partners that you're eligible to acquire discounts or offers from, and you should see Microsoft on there actually. And if it's set to qualified, then that means you know your organization should be eligible for it, which means you should go ahead and make your application. Sometimes hiccups can happen there with admin, and sometimes, you know, I've had one today where someone wasn't eligible, but they were. Just happens from time to time. But yeah, no, in theory, if it says qualified for Microsoft in your charity digital exchange account, then you should be eligible for 365.
365. Okay. Brilliant. Thank you, Joel. The next question is about the phone number. So can the verification phone number be your mobile rather than a landline switchboard?
Hi, Chris. Thanks for your question. And absolutely, yes. In fact, I think it's better personally to use your mobile phone rather than a landline. Like I said earlier, I use my mobile phone. Yeah, it's much easier. It's on the go. Also, there will be times where after a certain amount of time when you're using 365 that you'll be asked to re-authenticate your account, because you know how it is, password resets after a certain amount of days. So it's at that point where it's going to be sending details to your phone, where if you're using a smartphone, you'll get a text message and just a quick drop down and then 6 digits, and there away you go. So if anything, try to use a mobile phone rather than a landline, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, and I guess many of the people already using Microsoft 365 may already have that, you know, when they haven't logged into, you know, their Outlook or their other Microsoft Office pack. They might be prompted for a how do you call that, a multi-factor authentication?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yes,
yeah.
MFA. So much better to have a mobile, I guess. Another question from Tim. So probably going back to the previous question, if you're registered with Charity Digital, is the validation process with Microsoft always positive?
If you're registered, let's see.
I guess it depends if you're eligible.
No, you already said the words out of my mouth, Billy. So yeah, again, it depends. Your account will tell you if you're eligible already. Like I said, being a charity does not confirm that you're automatically eligible for Charity Digital Exchange. Microsoft's non-profit cloud offers. As Charity Digital Exchange, we work with a number of different partners, loads and loads of different partners, which have their own different eligibility criteria. And if you review your account, you'll see there are some organizations that you may be eligible to obtain offers from, and some you won't. Again, it comes down to a couple of points. Like I said, it could be on your activities, it could be based on your income. It could be a variety of different things why you may be eligible for some offers and not. But just to bring that back round, it's not automatically being registered with us would be positive always. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Joel. Another question. If the contact on our CD Exchange account is different to the admin user for our M365 account, is that okay?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely okay. That's completely fine.
Yes, because it's not really related, basically. So somebody can place orders, I guess, and
yeah, it's like there is definitely a link between Charity Digital Exchange and getting validated, of course, but in terms of the login side of things, that's separate. So it can be a different user. That's no problem.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Another interesting question from Tim. If you're part of a federation and each part of a federation is a separate legal charitable entity, can each entity apply? Yeah,
and so absolutely, providing that, so you can apply using each entity, and as long as you can provide proof that each entity has its own separate legal charitable status. I'll give a couple examples. Let's say, with churches, for example. So with churches, many of them might have, say, one charity number as like the head part. It might be the one, like a diocese board of finance or something along those lines. And then within that charity number, there'll be like several churches around it, association of churches, and they like to use a term. They use this term exempt charitable status, which is confusing. It's at that point you can still apply if they're like an exempt charity, but you'll need to either prove that each organization has its legal separate charitable status, or you might need to go down the branch letter route, depending. Another example is scout groups as well. So it can be confusing because some scout groups have their own charity number and some don't have their own charity number but are still a charitable organization. But again, they would need to apply using their HMRC status rather than using the main scout group number. Yeah, so as long as you have your separate status, and it's as long as it's not say a charity, which many charities have lots of different arms and different things. But if you work in the same building and you're, but we're just the accounts department of this and we need our own separate entity. No, it doesn't work that way, because you're still one within the same charity. There's a little bit, it's an interesting talking point in terms of the separate and stuff, but in short, yes, separate charitable status, certainly you can go for it and apply away.
and apply away. Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Joel, and thank you, Tim, for your question. Another question from Judy. Is it better to register ourselves, or is it easier to let our outsourced IT department to do it on our behalf? And I guess, what are the pitfalls of letting an external IT department do it?
That's a really great question, Judy. It's something that I deal with on a regular basis. There are definitely advantages to having an IT person do it for you, because sometimes, I guess sometimes we live in a world now where we just want the solution, but sometimes people don't want to know the how to. They just get it done. So that's what you're paying your IT company to do. Problem with some of the problems or pitfalls, I like that word, which come with it, is so sometimes the IT company might not know the whole picture. So for an example, your organization might have been validated for 365 years ago, and you may not be aware of it. And the simple process to there would be to, if you were to find that out, you would then be contacting Microsoft to help you gain access to the original account again. But the IT company may not know to make that step. So in the end, they may end up creating a whole account for your organization, try and move things over, but maybe find stumbling blocks because they're receiving notifications that perhaps your name is used elsewhere in a different account. Perhaps your domain is being used in a different account. Also, as well, with IT companies, they're not always aware of this particular non-profit sort of status or steps. So what I mean by that is that they'll just create a generic 365 domain, and they won't go through the validation process. And then with IT companies, sometimes there can be a delay with back and forth, because they have lots of customers and you might have a certain limitation as to how many times you can contact them. But weeks, days, weeks could go by where you still haven't got access to your non-profit licenses, and then perhaps the IT organization doesn't realize that they're not quite sure how to get it validated. So when they're finally told to get validated, it then adds further time, like perhaps like the 10 days that we spoke about earlier. Also, just going back to the slide where if further information is requested from your organization to complete the validation, if it's the IT company that's mailed on your behalf, they could be contacted by like a validator requesting details about your activities or something else, and the IT company is going to go, what does this mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
So they've got to go back and forth to you to ask for this information. You find that information, give it back to them, and then they provide it. And then there might be, maybe there's something missing from that maybe was misunderstood, and it can go back and forth. So IT companies, in short, sort of IT companies can definitely do it. I think IT companies are, I would say, better at specializing at actually managing your account once it's up and running.
Yes.
I think that's where their strength is. Once they're doing the admin in the background and all that stuff, I think that's their real specialty. The validation, as you can see today, I personally think it's not too bad, not too crazy and simple. Maybe you want to liaise with your IT company to make sure you're entering the correct details, but in terms of getting yourself up and running, you may want to do that yourselves before doing your handover to your IT company. And who knows, that might make you a bit of a saving, just skipping out that step, because you might be paying extra for that step.
Yeah, absolutely. No, very, very fair point. Yeah, thank you, Joel. I might be maybe going back to the previous session, but if some members of our attendees here may want to maybe add subscriptions and or have changed names, do they need to get validated again, say if the charity changes name, for instance?
That's a great question, and the answer is no. They don't need to get validated again for that. They can get their account updated. I believe I believe the name change has to be done by Microsoft themselves. They can't update the charity name, but they won't need to get revalidated. The only time that you might need to revalidate again is that I believe there are more processes coming in from Microsoft where you might need to revalidate sort of on a semi-regular basis, maybe annually or biannually, just because sometimes in the past, once you've been validated, it's kind of off you go, you're validated, that's it. But the problem is with that method is that organizations' charitable status can change, their eligibility can change. I mean, there are many organizations I've spoken to in the past who were previously eligible for Microsoft's non-profit offers, and then the eligibility regarding their organization type has changed. So that I would say in terms of revalidation, just it may be something you're required to do in the future, but in terms of simple name change or anything like that, no, you won't need to do that.
Once it's done, it's done. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Joel. Another question from John, or maybe probably some more clarification. The domain name on Microsoft.com, is it an email you should use for all signing into Microsoft, or should it be, or should you use the normal email address?
So I think I understand the question you're getting at. So when you're creating following the steps that we've done today, you're actually creating a brand new Microsoft account. So a 365 admin portal, should I say, which eventually you add licenses and users to. So if you want to continue to use 365, add users and that, then you have to use .onmicrosoft.com. What I think you may be getting at is that you may be using maybe like an Office on-premise license at the moment where you might have your domain on it. And if you want to use your domain within 365, that comes into, you need to transfer your domain over into the 365 admin portal, which can be a bit tricky for the uninitiated. It's about rerouting MX records, text records and stuff. It's actually a service that we provide organizations, depending on who the host of their domain is as well. But I think that's what you're getting. If you want to use your own email address within your recently created 365 account, you'll need to add it or migrate it over. What will then happen is within your Microsoft admin portal, so your 365 admin portal, you'll see a section which says domains, and you'll see a list of domains that you can have as email addresses. So your default one would be .onmicrosoft.com. But if you add your domain, say like Kerry's Kittens again or something like that. I don't know why I'm obsessed with kittens today, one of my favorite charity types. But you could have Kerry's Kittens on there, and say your organization has more domains than that, like it could be, I don't know, Kerry's Dogs, but it's still the same organization, but you still want it to be in the same sort of the same area. You can add that domain, so you have multiple email addresses with different domains living in the same place. So you could have John at Kerry's Cats, and you could have Kate at Kerry's Dogs, but still use
in one ecosystem.
Okay. So I hope that answers your question with that.
Well, hopefully, yes. John, let us know if that answered your question, and if not, we can clarify. We've still got plenty of time for that. Thank you, Joel. A couple of questions from Anna. They already are registered and have a mix of E3 and Business Premium licenses. But apparently, when she logs into the portal, it only shows Premium under subscriptions, so probably not the E3 ones. And she also wants to make it clear that the person that set it up is no longer with the charity, so she's having to work out what they've inherited and what's going on here.
That's a good question. Bit of a unique scenario with that one. I'm not sure why one is showing and one
not the E3
isn't. I'm not sure whether that's to do with Business Premium. You might have some spare ones remaining, or perhaps something's changed within your admin portal. If you were to obtain your licenses via us, then we can provide you with a mix of E3 and Business Premiums, and they'll both live in the same spot there, so that you can see. So I'm not sure why one isn't missing. That might be an issue that you might need to contact Microsoft about. But if there's with us, you should be able to see both, because we would, as a CSP, we would as a cloud solution provider, we can actually add licenses to your account and manage them and assign them to your correct users as well. So sorry if I wasn't too informational. That's a bit of a unique scenario. It sounds a bit of an admin issue on that one.
No, great. Yeah. Out of curiosity, do you need to activate the license once you've yeah, okay. It
No,
might
no, no,
be,
no.
yeah.
No, actually. So I was nodding along. Sorry. So that
Right.
so for the answer, no, that's not correct actually. But I was nodding along because I was like, I like this question. So, uh, um, so the way 365 licenses work is once you've acquired them, they will live in your portal. Apart from Anna has some missing ones at the moment, but generally they will live in your portal.
Okay.
Now, in order to make use of them, you will actually need to assign them to your user account. So make sure you use the user accounts. So you've got Katie at Kerry's dogs, but whatever it is now.
Kerry's kittens.
Kerry's kittens, that's it. So you've created that account first, and then in order for that person to start using, your Office apps, Microsoft Teams, OneDrive, all those features that that you paid for within your subscription, you then need to assign the license. What I would suggest, some organizations do make this mistake, is only purchase the licenses that you specifically need at that time. What I've found with some organizations is they'll maybe say they buy 20 E3 licenses, but they'll only have 14 members of staff, and they like perhaps the idea of perhaps stockpile them like just in the background, just to use as and when.
Yeah.
But the problem is even if they're unassigned, you're still actually paying for them. So if you've got 16 people within your organization, just make sure you've got 16 licenses and don't pay more than you need to.
Yeah. Thank you, Joel. So yeah, question for you, Anna, if you're able to review how many people are using, how many subscriptions you're seeing on the portal, and have also a dig at that, understanding what is maybe not used but by the correct account. I think that could be a good start as well. But yeah, thank you very much, right. Joel. So Lawrence, referring back to her previous question, that was, we already registered and have 365 licenses in a domain, and whether they needed to re-register. They're asking whether they forgot to say they already had a charity account, so they assume whether they need to register again. I don't think they need to register. I think that's the bottom line.
So it sounds like you've got like a normal account there which has been created, so you just need to get it validated for non-profit pricing. So as per one of the earlier slides, instead of going to register now, click sign in with that account that you've just created, and then complete the form to get your existing account validated for non-profit pricing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, if the answer wasn't the question, no, actually wasn't clear.
Fine. No, it's my fault for not making it clearer.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, thank you, Lawrence, for all your questions. Actually, a little bit different. Tim asking, can you explain the role of Techsoup? Okay. Obviously, Joel, you're a specialist there as well.
No, I mean, Techsoup, a great company that we work with alongside, and they're our very treasured partner. In terms of Techsoup, the role of Techsoup within this process, so Techsoup are actually the validators of the application that we went through today. So if you submit your organization's details and perhaps you've been asked for a bit more evidence just to confirm perhaps your activities of the organization to help the registration go through, that you'll actually be contacted by Techsoup requesting the information to provide to complete your validation. Sure. So within this context, Techsoup are the validators. I would say so within this context. But apart from Techsoup, we're a very special partner. They help us, spread the word, basically really help us really meet our mission or try to aim for our mission. I'm sure you know that, Lisa. We both speak to Techsoup on a regular basis.
Exactly, absolutely. So Charter Digital is the official UK partner for Techsoup, and actually ties in nicely with Jonathan questions, who work with an obviously charity partner in Malawi, and they're asking what guidance they can give them to benefit from the similar Microsoft nonprofit offers. And I would say that aside from going on to Microsoft in Malawi, there's also probably a Techsoup partner that services the Malawi the region where Malawi stands, and that could probably help as well.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, if you went to the Techsoup website, there's a drop down with all the countries that they help out, they provide services to. So if you might want to try Techsoup Malawi, they'll be able to help you there. Also on the registration form, on the under eligibility section, just double check that Malawi is listed on the country list. Sometimes not all countries are listed there. It is there, is it?
It is. I just checked.
Yay!
I'll pop that in. I'll pop that in the chat to everybody so that everybody can see that Techsoup is servicing Malawi nonprofits. So obviously there's not only Malawi, but if people can click on the link, they will also see what other countries are served by Techsoup partners globally. So if they are working with overseas partners, they could definitely direct them to that website.
So yeah, definitely check there, but also check the Microsoft website in terms of if Malawi is supported as a country, because not all countries have access to this non-profit offers for various reasons. They are always expanding it all the time. Actually, recently they're working on the Isle of Sark, actually, which I found out recently, which is one of the small Guernsey, like one of the islands. I said Guernsey Islands. That's it. Jersey. Channel Islands.
Channel Islands. Yes.
So the Isle of Sark has been something worked on at the moment. So they're always expanding it, even to sometimes the most unknown areas sometimes, and hopefully it continues.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Joel. Moving on to Steve's question. They're having trouble verifying their domain name. They have found it difficult to upload a text file to the top level of their domain company. So they're asking whether they could verify another way.
God, yeah, it's tricky, Terry, domains. It's not something we could really provide advice of, in terms of it comes down to the owner of your domain. It's a trick. I mean, it depends what your communication is with the host of your domain, how they can move it over. Some hosts of domain can be tricky to move over to 365 more than others, unfortunately. I won't give any examples because bad press, but no, nothing like that. But the owner domain, but yeah, it's a tricky one. There wouldn't be any other way, really. I mean, adding domains to 365 can be, like I said, it is a tricky process. It's not for something I would always suggest for a basic user level or even advanced, but usually left to the IT person. A lot of back and forth between the domain and stuff like that. That kind of question, though, could be a good one for next week. So we have a very special guest with us next week. Yeah, I'm looking forward to him. So coming to the next, get those kind of questions in after our next video. We have a very treasured colleague of mine joining us.
Brilliant. Well, Steve, you know what to do. Tune in for the third part of the series as well. Brilliant. Thanks, Joel. So the next question from Simon is asking whether they can get extra free business licenses for their premium license.
I mean, if you've got one premium license, you can get up to 10 for free. As per our eligibility in the last video, providing it's being used by paid staff members and unpaid executive members of staff, then you can get up to 10 of those free. You also have Microsoft 365 Business Basic, which is another free license. Obviously, it doesn't have as many features as the premium license, such as the downloadable Office apps, but that's also available to organizations who have eligible staff members as well.
Brilliant. Well, great. Thanks, Joel, for that. Hopefully, Simon, you can have a look. Tony is asking whether there's a tutorial online about domain names and Microsoft regards to Microsoft nonprofits. So yeah, whether you can provide any guidance on that as well.
It's a bit of a trick. There might be some content from Techsoup. They're really good for training services. It's not always easy to obtain that information in terms of guides, because many organizations actually sell that as a service. So it's almost almost giving the game away. That's potential guess potential business in a way. So there is information out there. I would say your first stop is to try Techsoup. If not Techsoup, my favorite resource, which we actually spoke about the other day,
Yes, in
is
the podcast,
YouTube.
yes, YouTube.
YouTube. I am sure there is someone who might be in their bedroom and said, this is how you migrate a domain or something. YouTube is my most favorite resource. You can ask any 365 questions. So many times people have asked me, how do I do this in 365? So I put their question into YouTube, great search bar because it's Google owned, and then there's a guy saying, you do this, you do that. I'm like, there you go. It's brilliant.
Oh, well, that's great. So yeah, hopefully you can check YouTube as well for tutorial. But we'll also browse the Techsoup library, and if we have any video to share, we'll add that to the resources tab with the recording and the slides. So don't worry about that, Tony. Yeah, please feel free to ask any other questions as we have a little bit of time. We've got a question from Celia, which I will try to summarize, but I think it's a very important one. So basically, Celia has had major problems with registering, I guess, as she's been asked to provide more information. She sent some information which she thought was relevant, but she's still waiting for an answer and for a decision. Unfortunately, she hasn't heard back, so she was wondering whether she needed to contact Techsoup or contact us, and we may be able to help.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we can follow up there for you. We probably need a couple of details about your organization, and maybe we can check where, if you've applied and it's maybe stuck in the application form, we can double check that, see what's happened for that there for you, and give you some feedback and try and push it along. Yeah, no, we can certainly look into that for you. We just need some details from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, there also has been some changes announced around Christmas time for the Microsoft program. So yeah, happy to obviously review your request if you pop an email to the customer service email address.
Yep, customer service at charitydigital.org.uk, and yeah, just send the details like perhaps your charity name, charity number. We can look that up there for you.
Brilliant, super. Thank you, Joel. And one last question from Jonathan. So his account shows 2 free 365 business premium licenses, 10 business basics, and then 25 nonprofit portal. Should there be more free business premium licenses, or do they appear if I register more users?
Sure, good question. So licenses such as Business Basic and Business Premium, they don't appear automatically once you've been validated. You actually have to request them. You can get them via us, or you can get them via Microsoft, your own nonprofit portal under the purchase service section. So you need to go and get those licenses yourself. They're not automatically put there. A reason being, one of the reasons would be eligibility, because despite you being a non-profit, perhaps your staff members might not be eligible to use that if they're like volunteers or things like that. So if you do want more, you said you've got 2 business premium licenses now, so you should be able to get another 8 directly either through your portal yourself, and you can even extend the business basic license count as well if you need to. What I would say, I think I spoke about this briefly in the last video, but just again, try not to, with free licenses specifically, don't stockpile them and obtain way more than you need. There's an eligibility or sort of a rule now with Microsoft came in about 6 months ago, 5-6 months ago, which is a utilization percentage. So what that means is organizations are now required to use 85% of their free licenses. So if you're a one-person charity, like at Kerry's Cats, for example, you're not going to need 300 business basic licenses or 10 business premium because you're a one-person charity. The people who stockpile them do face a risk of losing their non-profit offers or sorry to end that one on a low, but yeah, just putting the warning out there.
Yeah. That's actually quite important. I think because the last thing you want is obviously not being able to access free solutions. So yeah, please make sure you're actually only using what you need, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You only order what you need. Don't need to order what you don't. You always run the risk of that or paying more than you need to.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thanks very much, Joel. That's all we've got time for today. Thank you very much to everyone who joined us. Please tune in again on the 22nd of February for the final part of our series on how to maximize your Microsoft subscription, again with our amazing Joel. At the end of the session, you will see a feedback form popping up, so please do spare a couple of minutes of your time to share your feedback with us. We hope you really enjoyed the session and all the questions that were asked. Please do not hesitate to tune in for the first part. We will obviously publish the second part of today's session in about a week's time, and any additional questions we'll aim to obviously answer them in the resources tab. Without further ado, thank you very much. Have a lovely afternoon. Thank you again, Joel.
Thank you. Thanks for
see
having
you.
me. You've been a great
you.
host.
Thank you. And see you again very soon.
Thank you for coming, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.